Hello and welcome to
The Discussion.
You get a shiver in the dark, it's raining in the park, but meantime, sound of the river, you stop and you hold everything. A band is blowing Dixie, double fall time. You feel alright when you hear the music ring. Well, now you step inside, but you don't see too many faces. Coming in out of the rain, they hear the jazz go down.
This week on The Discussion, we will discuss the storied history and current opinions surrounding the issue of gun control in America.
Let's begin.
Gun control has been a politically charged issue since our nation's beginnings.
In 1791, our nation's constitution was amended for the second time to include that a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, shall not be infringed.
However, in 1934, Congress passed the National Firearms Act, which in general imposes a statutory excise tax on the manufacture and transfer of certain firearms and mandates the registration of those firearms.
Of course, pro-firearm ownership organizations like the National Rifle Association, or the NRA, have been around since 1871. The NRA, which considers gun ownership an inalienable civil right, calls itself the largest and oldest civil rights organization in the United States.
More pro-gun control legislation was passed in the 20th century, starting with the Gun Control Act of 1968, enacted after Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy's killings, barring interstate gun sales and sales to criminals. And later, in 1993, when President Bill Clinton passed a 10-year ban on the sale of assault weapons and large ammunition magazines.
All the while, the NRA Foundation and other pro-gun ownership lobbyist groups worked to pass laws like the Firearm Owners Protection Act of 1986, which eased the ban on interstate gun sales.
Now, in the wake of several recent horrific mass shootings in the United States, namely the Newtown and Aurora shootings, the issue of gun control is once again in the political spotlight. Now, let's bring the discussion on gun control to the students of Wellesley High School. Wayne LaPierre of the NRA called for armed guards in every school following the tragedy in Newtown, stating, "The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun." Do you agree with this plan and this statement?
I disrespectfully disagree. One, I think that idea is just bad. I feel like if we lived in a world where all schools had armed guards, it would just be a very fearful world. And on top of that, I just disagree that the only thing that can stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. I mean, we don't live in a world that's so black and white. There aren't James Bonds running around. I think the power of words can be just as powerful as the power of a bullet.
Like, hey, stop.
Do you feel the Second Amendment is as important a civil right to be protected as any other in our nation's Constitution?
I feel that the Second Amendment is an important right. What people have to remember is your rights end where other people's begin, and the Second Amendment is not the only amendment. There's the very important First Amendment as well, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So you've got to find a balance between people's lives, but also other people's pursuits of happiness. It should be protected, but it's something that people have to look at, not only thinking about their own viewpoints, but about the viewpoints of others when they're debating it.
That was awesome, guys. Thanks for contributing to this week's discussion. Now it's our turn to weigh in.
Like any other politically charged topic, there are two distinct sides that deserve coverage. In the case of gun control, pro-gun ownership legislators is the opposition, and vice versa. Those in favor of gun control are the opposition for pro-gun ownership legislation. A few pro-gun ownership groups include the National Rifle Association, the Gun Owners of America, the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms, and the Second Amendment Foundation. Throughout the years, they have fought to pass and have passed a number of laws and acts that make gun ownership and gun purchase easier. something these groups feel is an important civil right they have the duty to protect. This pro-gun ideology was on full display in Washington after the tragedy in Newtown, Connecticut, when the National Rifles Association Executive Vice President Wayne LaPierre held a Take No Prisoners news conference in which he called for a federal program to put armed guards in every school in the country, saying, "The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun."
On the other hand, Andrew, there has been an outstanding amount of action taken politically for pro-gun control changes since the recent shootings. Namely, many parents of the victims of the horribly tragic Newtown shooting have been vocal about their desire for stricter gun control laws that would put an outright ban on the type of assault rifles that were used in mass shootings like the one in Newtown and across America in recent history. Also, President Obama is pushing to pass an in-depth gun control proposal of his own. A couple of things in the proposal include the requirement of criminal background checks for all buyers, including those who are buying guns from private sellers, and reinstating the ban on assault rifles that was in place from 1994 to 2004, but was not extended by the Bush administration. All in all, it looks like gun control is an issue that still remains a political battlefield with constant back and forth, despite the traction it gained in the wake of tragic recent events.
And that's what's going on in the political world of gun control and ownership today, Friday, April 12th, 2013. Thank you for joining us in the discussion.
Thank you.